So our next constellation is just a little further north, sort of in the northwest area, setting on the horizon. It's a constellation called Perseus. So we find Perseus by looking for sort of a sideways Y shape. It'll be right towards the bottom of your screen there. I'll put up the outline and the picture of Perseus, the hero. In Greek and Roman mythology, he was known for slaying Medusa as well as rescuing the princess Andromeda from a sea monster. Andromeda is another constellation in the sky, but she would have actually set before Perseus here, so basically we won't see her in the sky right now. She's both a constellation and a galaxy. A little further up from Perseus, sort of between Perseus there and the Big Dipper in the middle of the screen, is another constellation. Now this is a very faint area of the sky. You need a moonless night and a very dark sight to find this constellation, so it's not very well known. It's called Camelopardalis. It means Latin for spotted camel, but that actually means it's the giraffe constellation, sort of stretching up from Perseus there to the north. And this constellation is a more modern constellation. It's newer than most of the ones we see. Perseus, Ursa Major, those were some of the original constellations from the ancient Greek philosopher Ptolemy, recorded in sort of the 100s. But it wasn't until around the 1600s that European astronomers added the giraffe here, Camelopardalis. Interesting object has been moving from the Big Dipper, there in the center of the screen, through Camelopardalis and into Perseus now. An object moving that fast, it's a comet. I'll put up the positions for the comet so we can see where it was moving this month. Now this comet was discovered at just the end of last year. It's called Comet Atlas, discovered as part of a survey looking for things that are near the Earth, especially crossing Earth's orbit. And this comet was one of the things found. Astronomers were excited that it might get bright, enough to see with just your eye as it passed by Earth and also closer to the sun when the comet starts to heat up, when usually comets become brighter. However, the comet started dimming in March, and it turns out that's because it's breaking apart into pieces. Now, it's unfortunate it won't get any brighter, but it was pretty exciting to get to catch a comet breaking apart. It's a rare event, especially because comets that break apart are smaller and dimmer and harder to spot in the sky. The Hubble Space Telescope has returned some wonderful pictures of this comet breaking into pieces. So let's take a look at those now. So these are some photos taken by the Hubble Space Telescope of the Comet Atlas, and it's starting to break apart into pieces, and we can see that it looks pretty different even from just a few days between this April 20 and April 23rd observation. That could be the objects, the pieces of the comet nucleus moving around, or could be a change in the way the light is dancing, bouncing off of the pieces of the comet that are breaking apart. We don't know for sure yet, and scientists are still studying this event. We haven't seen very many comets break apart, so it gives us a lot of exciting science to do. We're not even entirely sure why the comet breaks apart. It could be that it's spinning itself to pieces. Comets, when they get close to the sun, they're very icy objects, and they form mini atmospheres. So that's basically the ice turning straight into a gas and pouring off the comet around it, and that can cause the comet to start to spin from sort of venting that's uneven, and it might be spinning so fast that it's just breaking apart. It's something we're still learning about, and because there's a lot of comets that cross Earth's orbit, we want to know how they move and how they change. If you want to see a comet with just your eyes, you might be in luck. There's a comet that's just barely visible with the naked eye. It's called Comet Swan, and it's actually passing through the same area as Comet Atlas pretty soon, towards the end of May. I'll take down the positions for Comet Atlas, and I'll put up the positions for Comet Swan so we can see where it's going to be moving. Now, if you want to spot this comet, hopefully it will get a bit brighter as it gets closer to the sun. Its closest approach to the sun will be May 27th, but we can't be sure if it'll get brighter or not. There's hopes that it might get bright enough to easily see with the naked eye. If you're looking before May 24th for this comet, you actually want to look sort of lower than where we're seeing here. You'll probably want to instead look at the morning sky just before sunrise, maybe an hour before sunrise. And after May 24th, you're free to look in the evening sky about an hour after sunset for best visibility of Comet Swan. So the last object that we're going to look for in the sky is right in front of us, a bit below the Big Dipper. It's another one that's very faint that you can't really see with your eyes. You need a telescope to look for it. It's in that spot there. And it's called the Cat's Eye Nebula. It's a planetary nebula. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with planets. It's actually a dying star, a lower mass star, kind of like the sun. We're going to take a closer look at the Cat's Eye Nebula. We're not going to zoom in on it, though, like we have been doing for other objects. We're going to fly out to the Cat's Eye Nebula to see it for ourselves closer up. We're going to fly through space over 3,000 light years. So inside our galaxy, the Milky Way, but still far outside our solar system. We'll lift off the Earth. Flying above Georgia. And finally travel away from our home planet and out to the Cat's Eye Nebula, leaving our solar system far behind. We're actually leaving the disk of our galaxy, you see sort of above the Cat's Eye Nebula there. Now we can see the Cat's Eye Nebula much closer up. It has incredible structures to it. This is actually material coming off of a dying star. So the structure we're seeing here is sort of bursts of gas that have come off this star as it's reached the end of its life. It's a star that was probably close to the size of the sun. Its mass was maybe 5 times the mass of the sun when it started out, but it's lost a lot of material. Now, our own sun will end in a planetary nebula, kind of like this one. The event is more gentle than what we see for massive stars, like the ones in the cosmic reef. Those will end as supernovas. The material flies off of them faster and more violently. But this planetary nebula may look different than our sun's. It's one of the most complicated ones we see. We think that could be because of a companion around the star that's dying. And so it could be creating more structure here. Our sun's planetary nebula might be a simple bubble gently expanding into space. Well, it won't seem so gentle to us here on Earth. The sun won't even get big enough to swallow the Earth before it even becomes a planetary nebula. But we still have a long time until that happens. We have about 5 billion years until the sun ends its life as a planetary nebula, kind of like this one, the Cat's Eye.